With a rope tied around her waist, Annie immediately threw the iron block into the water. As the rope quickly slid through her fingers, she took a deep breath and plunged in. The water was cold and numbing, and it was pitch dark all around. She could only rely on the weight of the iron block to help her sink quickly. At that moment, Jack above the surface sent down some oxygen. Annie hurriedly switched to breathing through the pipe. She was taking this risk because the route above was blocked, and she needed to reach the other side. That's why she was willing to navigate through the water. But as she swam, she quickly realized the oxygen hose wasn't long enough. It was the longest hose available in the entire barrel compartment. With the destination almost in reach, she took one final deep breath, then released the hose, pushing off the bottom with all her might to swim upward. Just as she was about to break through the surface, a powerful force yanked her back. She felt like a deflating balloon, dragged back into the darkness. It was then that she realized the iron block had become stuck. A suffocating feeling overwhelmed her. Desperately, she tugged on the rope, trying to bring both herself and the iron block up, but to no avail. In a panic, she tried to untangle the rope, but the darkness made it impossible to see anything. In the chaos, she turned to grab onto the metal mesh, only to have it break apart, the decayed metal giving way easily. However, she immediately noticed the sharp edges and used her remaining strength to cut the rope with them. Just as her consciousness began to fade, the rope finally snapped. She surged toward the surface, greedily inhaling the long mist air. Yet, despite escaping death, there was no relief. Instead, she found herself faced with a locked fire cabinet. Without any tools, she had no choice but to smash her fists against the door. Once it bent, she wedged her fingers into the crack and pulled with all her might to tear it open. Fortunately, the thinness of the cabinet door made it easier to pry open than she'd expected. But just as hope surged, it was shattered once again. The cabinet was empty, no fire suit. She knew very well that without it, there was no way she could return to barrel compartment 17. It wasn't until she opened the last fire cabinet that she found a complete fire suit. Exhausted, Annie swam back to the original spot, only to see Jack frantically waving his arms and shouting something. Her ears were filled with water, and the world around her buzzed, making it impossible to hear his words. Before she could react, Jack suddenly turned and left. Though confused, Annie had no choice but to follow, dragging her soaked body along. After all, she needed his help. When they reached the underground garage, she sensed something was wrong. Jack had pressed the wrong code in his panic. But luckily, there were still 2 attempts left. However, he was too anxious, and the door still wouldn't open.
Maybe you got the number wrong.
What did you do?
I didn't do anything.
No, you messed with it. You want to keep me out.
I've been with you the whole time.
One more try,
Okay.
and then I'm blocked out.
Calm. Hey. Just
Oh, I shouldn't have left. It's safe in there.
maybe you should write it down.
Shut up!
Okay.
Though the door finally opened on the 3rd attempt, Jack was furious and blamed her for the mistake. Annie was taken aback, but she also understood. The man who had lived alone in the underground garage for decades had grown far more solitary than she could imagine. Jack, like a child separated from his parents for the first time, was filled with unease and fear. But at that moment, Annie was completely drained and could only sit down to rest.